And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman, and this is my Cottage Talk post-match reaction show. 5 takeaways from Fulham's victory against Everton at Goodison Park. 1-0 for Fulham to open up the season. A massive 3 points. Fantastic 3 points for Fulham Football Club. I'll be going through my 5 takeaways in the next 15 minutes. I do want to mention we will have a complete post-match show recording on Sunday. We look forward to bringing that to you. I have some great co-hosts who will be joining me for this show. It should be fun to break down this victory for Fulham. But let's get to it. Let's get to my 5 takeaways from this match. So let's start with number 5. An easy one for me. Number 5 is finding a way to win is a hallmark of a good team. I've seen this not just in football, but in many sports. When you look at a team that just finds ways to win, they're usually a very good team. And Fulham showed it last season. We could go back to that Brighton match, go back to several matches where they just found a way to win. And I have always noticed that in some ways people look at it and they discount the fact that this is a very positive situation, that they were fortunate. No, they were not fortunate. They found a way to win. Yes, it's a smash and grab. And I just want to mention that because I think when people say smash and grab, they look at that negatively. And I actually look at it positively because Fulham to start the season winning this way, and you know that they're going to bring in reinforcements. They just added a player just today, and I'll be mentioning that player on the post-match show because I think that he will add something to Fulham Football Club. They're going to add more signings. So if this is where we're beginning with a foundation and Fulham are going to be adding to the foundation, it's a great start. And good teams find ways to win. Nothing wrong with the smash and grab. Did Everton have a huge amount of chances to win this match? Could they have won 3-4-1? Potentially, but they didn't. And you know what? Part of that, I think a good part of that comes down to Fulham Football Club. We could talk about the goalkeeper, but you can also talk about other elements. And that's why I have my 5 takeaways. It's a good thing that they found a way to win. Not a bad thing. The performance isn't the greatest. But when you win, when the performance isn't at your best, at what it's going to be, that's a fantastic thing. And you do it on the road at Goodison Park. By the way, that's 3 in a row. Not that anyone's counting like me. I am counting 3 in a row. And I just want to say, honestly, Everton played well. They just couldn't score. And you can look at it and say, well, the players didn't do enough. We could talk about their argument for a disallowed goal. I can make the argument that Fulham deserved the penalty. I think that they basically washed themselves out, those 2 situations, but we'll talk about that more in the post-match show. But in the end, Fulham get all 3 points. And I'm going to say it right now. I don't care how they did it. They did it, and that's a mark of a good team. A hallmark of a good team is when you're not playing at your best and you get all 3 points. It's a very good sign to start the season. That's why that's number 5. Number 4, starting Tim Ream was a mistake. And I'm a huge Marco Silva fan. I've talked about the decisions that he makes. I give him praise when he deserves it. And I can be critical when I disagree with a decision. I disagree with starting Tim Ream coming off of an injury. I know he was getting back to fitness at the end of preseason, but to put him in this situation, and it just didn't seem like he was at his best in this match. I think that, believe it or not, even though it might have seemed like a gamble to some to start Bassi, I would have started Bassi. Bassi did nothing in the last match to not start against Everton. He looked like the real deal. So why not reward him and start him against Everton? In a way, I think he went the safe route and started Tim Ream, but Tim Ream is coming back from an injury, And in the end, I think this was a mistake. I think Calvin Bassey would have played very well in this match. That's just my opinion. There's nothing to back that up except my thoughts that I think that's the way it could have gone. But I just think this was a mistake that Marco Silva made. That's just my opinion on that. I think Tim Ream is not done by a long shot. I just think that to start him after such a long time of being out against Everton on the road might have been a difficult place to have Tim Ream come in, and I just don't think he was at his best. So that's why that's my number 4. Number 3, the substitutions in the second half changed the match. I think this is obvious. Marco Silva, I watched his presser after the match, and he talked about how they talked about that they were going to change things up in the second half, and they absolutely did. I think they did it tactically, but I think the substitutions were a part of it. And Bobby Decordova-Reid coming in to start the second half was just one piece of that puzzle. And then to bring on Andreas Pereira and Alexander Mitrovic at, I believe, around the 58th minute, really just solidified those changes. And then things started to really go Fulham's way about 5 to 10 minutes later from that point. And I think that when you look at how the first half went, Fulham were definitely second best, and they did not play well in the first half. I give Marco credit for coming up with a plan for second half. How many times have we seen a team being better than your team in the first half, and then things change in the second half? Here's an example of it. Everton still played well in the second half. They played well throughout, but Fulham's substitutions changed things for them, and it definitely paid off. All 3 substitutions were involved in the goal from Bobby Decordova-Reid, but it wasn't just that. Bobby Decordova-Reid had another opportunity to score. Alexander Mitrovic had an opportunity to score. And, of course, we have the potential penalty situation as well. So all 3 players, all 3 substitutions made a difference in the second half, and I believe were a big part of the reason why Fulham won. They were a part of it. There's another reason why ultimately Fulham won the match, and that will be my number 1, but I'm not there yet. But when I look at it, this is definitely a huge part of the game, these substitutions. And credit to Marco Silva for not waiting on the substitution, taking Willian off and bringing on Bobby Decordova-Reid. That was a good substitution. And then another 2 substitutions in the 58th minute, I think, just made all the difference in the world. And it was good to see Mitro play and Andres Pereira play. There are difference makers for Fulham Football Club. So number 3 is definitely important in this match. Let's go to number 2, and I think this is an important one. I'll be curious how many people will be talking about this one. Number 2 is Fulham showed they can win without Xiao Paulina. Now, they missed Xiao Paulina in this match. They absolutely missed him. I think they missed him a great deal. However, when you can win a match without your best player, yes, he's Fulham's best player. In my opinion, he's Fulham's best player. When you can find a way to win without your best player, that's doing something. I think they needed to do this because I think we will see potential situations where we won't be seeing Paulina during the season. Let's hope it's not injury. It could be, obviously, for a suspension. You know, we've already seen that before. They have to be able to win without him. So this is a huge step in the right direction. Also, doing it on the road without Paulina is a big deal. So I don't think this should be discounted as being a big deal. Fulham did win a match without Xiao Paulina. Do they need more help in central midfield? Absolutely. But they were able to find a way to get all 3 points without him. That's a big thing. In my book, that's a huge thing for Fulham Football Club. All right, coming up next to end this episode of Cottage Talk, I'm going to share with you my number 1 takeaway from this 1-0 victory for Fulham against Everton. Okay, to end this episode, my post-match reaction, my 5 takeaways from Fulham's victory against Everton. This one's obvious. Number 1, Bernd Leno in the end was the difference. He made so many saves in this match. He was incredible. He is a world-class goalkeeper. It just blows me away that we got him for such a low fee, and the fact that Arsenal let this goalkeeper get away. He's that good. He is phenomenal. Save after save. He just kept basically protecting Fulham throughout the match. Now, there are a couple ways to look at it. You don't want your goalkeeper to be man of the match, right? You don't want that. But it's not a bad thing if he is either. It's not a bad thing, because if he's man of the match, you probably won the match. And in this case, you won the match. And I always bring up this analogy because in sport in North America, the NHL hockey, it's often you'll hear the term when a goalie sits on his head and basically wins a game for his team. And this is common in hockey. Well, that's what Bernd Leno did. And in the NHL, that's considered a good thing. But for some reason, this also has this negative aura about it, that a goalkeeper winning a match is not a good thing. It's a really good thing. I know what it also says, that you're giving up all these opportunities. And defensively, Fulham were definitely not at their best. And we'll go through that in the post-match show. We will break down, we'll analyze what went wrong there. But when your final line of defense is Bernd Leno, that's a good thing. That's not just a good thing, that's a great thing. And we should be basically praising that as such a good thing, knowing that we have this goalkeeper protecting Fulham and getting points for Fulham. He was the difference. I talked about the substitutions being a big part of the change of the game, and that is true. That was a difference in the game. But ultimately, the bigger difference in the end was Bernd Leno. And Fulham are fortunate and lucky to have him, and may this continue for many years to come, because he will continue to get Fulham points just by his shot stopping, which is just out of this world. I thought Mark Schwarzer was a fantastic goalkeeper in my time of watching Fulham. I'm going to say it right now. I never thought I would have a goalkeeper go beyond Mark Schwarzer. I'm putting Bernd Leno in that category. I think he's gone beyond Mark Schwarzer. I wasn't around for Van der Sar, so I can't judge there. But in my time, Bernd Leno is the best goalkeeper I've seen with Fulham Football Club. And that's saying a lot, because I love Mark Schwarzer, and I thought Mark Schwarzer was the man. I think Bernd Leno has already showed me, I think he's already gone past the Schwarzer level, which is an incredibly high level. So this is why this is my number one takeaway. He was that impactful in this match. Now, there are a couple ways to look at this. And if you listen to, say, an Everton show, I'm sure they're going to talk about their missed opportunities and that they could have been up 3-4-1. Go on X now that it's called, and you'll see that. Oh, Fulham should have been down 3-4-1, but if it wasn't for Bernd Leno. And I'm supposed to think that's a bad thing? That's a good thing. That's a great thing. We can focus on the weaknesses of the defense tomorrow, but we should also be praising the fact that you have this goalkeeper that is going to get you points. And that's a wonderful thing. That's a truly wonderful thing, to have someone that can be that difference maker. And I don't see this as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing. Does it show that Fulham are weak in certain areas? Potentially. I think Fulham need about 5 to 6 players. Like I said, they brought in Adama Traore today. That's one. I think they need another 4 or 5. But the fact that they have found a way to win and have a goalkeeper that's a difference maker like this, we should be happy. We shouldn't be so focused on the negative, focused on, wow, they didn't play that great. No, they didn't play that great, but they walked out of Goodison Park with all 3 points. That's the bottom line. Everton played well and lost. Would you rather be Everton or be Fulham? I think I'd rather be Fulham. That's where I'm going on that. You can disagree with me. I'd rather be Fulham than Everton right now. I'll just leave it at that. I thought they looked very good. The only problem that they had, they couldn't get someone to put the ball in the back of the net. But you know what? Baron Leno had a lot to do with that. Just going to say that to end the show. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. We will have a full post-match show on Sunday of this massive Fulham victory to start the season. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.